Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can start. A warm welcome. It's great to see so many and even new familiar faces and names on the screen. I haven't seen most of you and spoken to many of you, so happy 2021. Hope it's going to be a better year than last year. Hope you're all keeping safe and healthy. This is our first webinar for the year, and we're planning to do at least maybe even more per month. So please keep an eye on our events tab. Susanne will say a little bit more about that at the end of the webinar. Today's topic for the webinar is a full demonstration of Shadowmatch and the Skillsgrid system, as well as a quick display of the reports that we offer on the system. So we trust that you will find it insightful. I'm going to hand over in a moment to Susanne. She's our general manager at Shadowmatch, and she will be doing the demonstration. She's the best person to do this. She works with the system on a daily basis, and no better person who's got a better understanding and comprehension of all the functionalities on the system. Just a quick administrative arrangement. You will see that you are currently on forced mute. It will remain like that for the duration of the presentation. Towards the end, we will allow you to unmute yourself should you have any questions. In the meantime, you're welcome to just post your question in the chat. I will answer and also collate some of the questions that might repeat, and then we will handle those questions towards the end of the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, we're sure that it will fit into an hour. You're welcome to run at any point in time when we reach 4 o'clock. Those of you that want to stay behind and just still engage in questions, you're welcome, but don't feel obliged. So I'm going to hand over to Susanne, our General Manager. Susanne, thank you very much. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining into the webinar. Let's jump right in. So for today's discussion, the perfect starting point is a quick 2-minute video. This showcases the critical components needed for success in a role. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And let's just open up this video. And start.
In this video, I want to explain the 3 critical components for success in the workplace. The Shadowmatch team refers to these components as I know, I can, I fit. The first component, I know, is all about the knowledge necessary to do the job. Knowledge refers to theoretical knowledge, information, and the understanding of how things work and how it is done. This will include product knowledge, process knowledge, technical know-how, general business knowledge, and so forth. The second component, I can, is about the physical skills necessary to successfully do the job on an execution or practical level. A skill is the term used to refer to the physical execution of the task in a smooth and successful manner. It is in relation to this aspect that Skillsgrid is used. The third component is the I fit part of a job. This is about employee workplace compatibility. This is probably the most challenging aspect of the 3. The question is, does the behavioral patterns of the employee meet the behavioral expectation of the working environment? It is in this area where Shadowmatch is used with great success. I will now explain the above by means of a few examples. A medical doctor has the knowledge to do the job because he completed his qualification to practice as a doctor. Through his years of study, he acquired the physical skills to work as an emergency medical practitioner. Will he be able to practice his profession as a doctor on an oil rig in a very remote area? This will all depend on whether his behavioral patterns function positively in the environment. Shadowmatch is used extensively to answer this question. Let me give you a second example. A musician has the knowledge to read and understand sheet music and the skill to play the piano. Does this mean that all pianists will be equally good at teaching music to kids at a nursery school? No. For this job, a specific and unique combination of habits are necessary. Remember, people are successful and become confident in what they do when they have the knowledge, the skill to execute the task, and the behavioral patterns that fit the environment where the job needs to be done. Shadowmatch and Skillsgrid can assist in ensuring success for all.
There we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you just saw in that video, these components combine in intricate ways, and obviously it's different for each role and each context. But the good news I have for you today is we have great resources and functionalities on the system that assist you in understanding each of these components and then to optimally use them within your environment and your unique context. So let's start with the first component, I fit. Because interestingly, this is the biggest component. It carries the weight of 70% of the reason why I'm going to be successful in this role or not. So if my unique behavioral preferences align to the behavioral demands of the unique context, the chances of me being successful is so much higher. And the resource we use to understand this context and to measure this concept is the Shadowmatch Worksheet. Now, what the Shadowmatch Worksheet does is it measures my unique behavioral preferences, or better known as my habits. So it's not an assessment that I can fail or pass, it's not a test with a good or a bad result. The worksheet gives you an in-depth understanding of your unique behavioral profile. So on your results graph, you would see the habits are measured in intensity brackets, all the way from softer embedded habits, we call them planned behaviors, necessary behaviors, contextual habits, strong habits, all the way through to radical habits that are strong embedded patterns in your behavioral context. Now, the moment we know this of an individual, so someone has completed the worksheet and we have that result, we can link that result into the Shadowmatch Workforce Optimization System. Now, this is a great user-friendly interface where you work with the results and there's a bunch of functionalities. The 4 main applications of the system is optimal placement, employee support and development, team analysis, and then personal fulfillment. Let me show you live what this actually looks like. So for this, I'm going to log into the live system. I'm currently using a fictitious company, but it's live and any client will be able to do everything I'm going to show today, live and interactive with their own data. So this is a view of the company Z and their layouts of the roles within their environment. So you can set this up according to your organogram. They, for instance, have admin all the way through to sales. Once I'm in a specific role, I can now start understanding this role. So everybody working in customer support, I'll find their results there. And now I'm going to do a big application of the system. I'm going to be talking about the benchmarking. So this is my insight into my unique context. So within a role, I identify the individuals that are already in this position and doing the job well. So they're performing in the role, they're doing what we expect of them. If we expect of them to row the boat from point A to point B, they row the boat and they row the boat well. They're enthusiastic about the environment and they're involved in that environment. We identify those individuals that we say they do the job well, and we mark them as benchmark individuals. So you see here, I say, please be part of my benchmark group, and then they contribute to this graph here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this might be the first time that you're seeing any Shadowmatch results. So you'll see it's an intensity graph showing specific habits, specific constructs, and this graph shows that intensity that we referred to at the start, planned behaviors all the way to radical habits. So the stronger this graph is, the more embedded this pattern is. But before we do this further, let's just scroll down a bit. In customer support, this unique context identified the following individuals to say they're doing the job well. Now the system is trying to create this profile for you to say, but what are the habits that are definitely functional towards success? Because if you're telling me all 6 of these individuals are performing in customer support, let's see how their habits align. So the system does the stats check for you to say, I can find commonalities and congruency in these behavioral patterns. You'll see it here with your benchmark strength. Now this can be orange, it can be problematic if you don't find that, but in this case it's green. Now we saw, there's a commonality with the intensities of these unique habits of your top performers. So let's understand this role. Let's understand what the demands of this role is on individuals in this role because these guys, they already told you I'm performing in this role. The context works for me. These are the habits that I use. So let's learn from these habits. Let's scroll back to our results here. So obviously, ladies and gentlemen, this will look different for each role, each specific role that we identify. And the system is so powerful that you can say a specific role in a specific division. Let's understand that. So let's understand customer support. But we also have our customer support supervisors, because as you know, it's a different role. It has different demands. So let's just learn the customer support one. You see there's 5 main areas in a benchmark. Your overall match, that is the overall picture of all 19 of the habit constructs measured by the worksheet and their intensities. The next component, the critical match, you'll see it is the 5 strongest embedded pattern out of these behaviors. So you'll see discipline is there, for instance. Here we see discipline again. To you, but what are the habits that are embedded the strongest in our benchmark group? There we are, the critical match. Our next component, the conceptual fitness. Now, in your worksheet, you can't score good or bad results, as we said, and there's not right or wrong answers for the questions. But there are 10 specific questions in this worksheet that measure something specific, your conceptual fitness. How fit are you to work with problems? So it's not the measurement of your ability, but the application of the ability, so fitness. So if you think of a physical example, this group is telling us they're at a 4 out of 10 fitness level. So to do the job well, we need to run around the building 4 times a day. Then the job is done well. If you bring me into this environment and I'm at an 8 out of 10 fitness level, I'm going to run around the building with you, and then I'm going to ask you, okay, but what's next? Where is the job done? Because I'm too fit for that environment. And obviously the other side as well, if I'm at a 1 out of 10 fitness level, I might not be able to keep up. So remember what Shadowmatch is trying to do here. We're trying to understand the context. Our benchmark is the insight into the context. And it's showing us to be good in this job, you need a 4 out of 10 fitness level. Not all roles are a 10 out of 10 fitness level. Learn what the system tells you about this specific role. The next component, our task efficiency. How efficient did this group of benchmark individuals engage the Shadowmatch worksheet? That's what it measures, to say, taking your overall time, the conceptual time, and the conceptual fitness score into consideration. They're at this level of task efficiency, and that's the task efficiency that works in this role and is suitable for this environment. Maybe if I'm at an 88% task efficiency, you might say, ooh, better is faster, but I might work too quickly and miss some of the critical details. Or if my pace is a bit too slow, I might not keep up with this. Now, the last component before we get to the rest of the functionalities is your attitude. So the worksheet measures the benchmark group or the individual's approach to their environment. So you'll see there's 4 quadrants. Above the line, we have involved. Below the line, uninvolved. To the right, we have unaggressive, and then to the left, assertive or aggressive if it's more dominant. Now, this shows you how much weight does each of these categories weigh for their approach to the environment. What is our dominant approach for this benchmark? Involved in an unaggressive approach. If we take this energy from them, they're going to revert to the next approach to get a bit more assertive about it and say, let's wrap up, let's get to the next point. Now, what do we do with all of this data? We've identified the top performers, we've created this benchmark, but how is this of practical value for me in my everyday environment in the workforce? On the system, I can now compare any other result, any other individual to this benchmark. So let's go to the applicants, the individuals applying for this position. I can also compare any employee already working in my environment, but let's start with the applicants. So if I'm just going to switch that, we just view the Shadowmatch results for now. Here I have a list of individuals. If I open up my list to see, okay, show me everybody in this file and rank them for me according to the closest alignment of their unique habits to the benchmark group to the softer alignment. Let's look at the first result here. Now look what the system does. Now I'm asking the system to compare this individual's habits to the benchmark we've just been looking at, the customer support benchmark. This colored habits, the purple, the red, that's Tanya's unique behavioral preference. And just from this visual graph, do you see how close this aligns? It follows the same pattern. So the benchmark is showing you, okay, look at this match. Look at how she scores across the board. And here we have a score to say, what are the chances of her being successful in this role? We have a 10 out of 10, almost a perfect match here to see the demands of the context and the individual's behavioral preferences align very closely. Now, the system will give you a detailed graph of what you see visually. So if I click here on matching report, it gives me a comprehensive description of what do each of these constructs mean and what does the match that you see visually actually mean for this individual. And you'll see there's a conclusion at the end that says, the habits of Tanya are extremely congruent to that of the benchmark group. If Tanya has the skills to do this job, and she does the same job under the same conditions as the benchmark group, the probability to succeed is very high. So do you see what the system is giving you here? It's telling you the biggest reason why Tanya will be successful in this role, that 70% of the component, the I fit component, aligns very closely. Yes, check everything else, see the whole picture, but we have addressed this need here. Okay, so this was a good match. Let's look at the match if it doesn't align so closely and how we learn from this. So if I'm going to go to one of the individuals up lower on the list, let's say Dawn here, and we open up her results. See how the system starts speaking to you and informing you to say what are the demands going to be on this individual in this unique context. So the first thing to mention here, do you see she has a different behavioral preference? It's not a better or a worse behavioral preference. That's her habit profile. So we need to understand how this profile will align to this unique context. So let's just zone in a bit. Do you see here, for instance, propensity to own versus handoff? The benchmark group has a stronger preference for taking ownership. She has a stronger preference for handing off. If we look at the team and the individual inclination, the benchmark group shows a strong inclination for that team inclination. She says, you know what, rather want to do it solo. I'm individually inclined there. Our people habits here, people positive, conflict handling, altruism, leadership. Do you see how strongly embedded those patterns are for the benchmark group? For it's softer, she says, when necessary I can, but not necessary always. And the last thing we just want to show you is, do you see the approach here? The benchmark group dominantly approaches in an involved, unaggressive way. A dominant approach is uninvolved. Now, if we're going to put her into this role, we're putting her into customer support, and there's a difficult customer phoning in or coming through the door, and she now says, you know what, I'm going to get uninvolved and hand off this one to my team leader and rather take a break now. Are we then going to start performance managing her and say, Dawn, what are you doing? You're not doing what you're supposed to do. Is that fair to give this demand behaviorally to this individual if we're informed that that is her natural preferences? Now, good news. If we see this match, but we want to keep that individual in the environment, there's a great system functionality that helps us to find that perfect context for that specific behavioral preference. For that, I'm just going to go to a different result. Let's go to Jillian. So here we see the same. The individual's alignment to the demands of the benchmark isn't so close. We have a 3 out of 10 match here. But isn't there somewhere else in the environment in our company that she may be a perfect alignment? Let's see. I'm going to click on this button here, multi-match. Now it's comparing this individual's habit to all of my other benchmarks, and it's showing me what are their specific alignments. So we looked at customer support, 3 out of 10. But look at her in sales. Now we see the same individual compared to a different benchmark. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, what am I seeing here? That gray is what the top performers, the insight into what you need to be successful in this specific context. You see how closely she's aligned? She almost looks like a superstar. So if we use this functionality optimally to say, let's find the correct role for this individual within the environment. If we bring it into this environment, it's going to be a closer alignment. Everything goes easier. The training goes quicker, and it's a sustainable fit, because that's the pattern in her behaviors, and that's going to be the demands of the environment, and it's aligning very closely. Now we can also do the opposite. Now we ask the system, okay, show me this individual's habit compared to all of my benchmark. But what if I want to start with a specific role, my benchmark, and I'm asking the system to show me individuals? For that, I'm going to use my breadcrumb here at the top, linking back to my main page. And now I'm going to go to this other file, the customer support supervisors. If I go in there and I open up that Shadowmatch benchmark, you'll see the graph looks different. If I go from here and I say, I want to multi-match individuals to this graph, I click the button here at the top. And now the system generates a match for me from everybody on my database in this company to say, who aligns the closest to this? Who already has the behavioral patterns needed to be successful in this role? Now I can filter this to say just in a specific area, so just in my customer support area, or company-wide, like it's now, to say everybody across the business, show me that match towards it. So think about succession planning. Think about leadership identification. Think about the employee support and development of your staff to say, you're coming into our environment and what is our journey with you? How are we taking you to that next level? Yeah, I'm looking for my next supervisor. We need to create that pipeline. And yeah, I already have individuals that have the behavioral match to that. They have the habits that are going to be needed in that role. What if I want to develop them? Let's click on Christopher. Now the system is pulling up that benchmark, the supervisor benchmark, and showing me this individual that I already saw was a good match. And if I now say, you know what, Christopher, I'm going to go the journey with you. I want to make you the supervisor within the next 2 years, 2 months, whatever the timeline is. How can I optimally equip you for this role to make sure you're going to meet the demands? If I scroll down and I click on this button here at the bottom, the request BDP button, it's opening up a next system functionality, the personal development programs. Now, what the development programs are is there's one for each of the habits measured by the worksheet. So you'll see altruism, conflict handling all the way through, as well as time management. These programs are outcomes-based experiential learning programs. What that means is you're going to have to do something to learn this behavior. So these programs are broken up into phases. In each phase, you do something, do something, do something, do something, until you learn that specific habit and it becomes more embedded in the habit profile. These programs are fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. They work. They actually, if the individual wants to develop, they work because the content is already there. So you'll see on the screen, it's highlighted. Some of them are recommended. The system is recommending and guiding the development for me to say, if you want to bring Christopher into this role, we would recommend innovation or responsiveness. So do you see how if we go into that development of our staff, the system is equipping us to plan the development, and it's not a generic approach to say everybody needs to do innovation because it's 2021 and we need to innovate because COVID happened last year. It's a tailored individual approach to say this individual will learn and benefit from this specific habit. If my habits were compared to this, completely different ones are going to be recommended. And it's so quick and easy, and the accuracy lies there. Now we'll look at the development programs a bit later on our personal portal again. Let's go over to our next system functionality here. Ladies and gentlemen, up until now, we've been working in specific roles. We say, let's understand the demands of the roles, the employees in that role, the applicants applying for that role. But the system also has a team functionality where we look at the team dynamics. So I'm going back to my home screen, and now I want to view the teams. I can combine any results in any team format, any group working together. And here at the top, I have an easy navigation button that takes me there. And now I see the teams created in this company. So we have a project team here. If we open up that screen, what do we see? Now this is the same results we've been talking about the whole time, just packaged in a different view, in a different functionality of that data integration. The project team consists of the following individuals here to the left. And to the right, I'm seeing the graph of that combined team profile. Now this graph is derived from my individual habits, but it has specific constructs. You'll see it has opposite constructs at the opposite side of the graph. So yeah, for instance, have the element of change, and on the other side, maintaining the known. Now this gray graph here is the congruent graph of the whole team to say, but what is their preference? And we see, for instance, they have a stronger pull to maintaining the known rather than change. It's embedded to a stronger extent. So if I'm the manager of this team and I'm aware of this, I'm optimally supporting my team when we're going through a big change within the business. So I'm informed here without me having to learn the hard way. I already have the insight into my team. Now you can also then compare your individual team members to this. Now let's select a few individuals. Let's see Dawn, our individual from the other day, from the other view, and here we have Sophia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do you see the unique approaches within these two team members? If I'm a first-time manager and I don't have this insight, how am I going to optimally manage these two unique individuals if I'm just going to do a blanket approach to say, you know what, guys, we do A, B, and C. But now, as a first-time manager, if my company uses the system, I have insight into this to say, but okay, let's just take a quick look here. Do you see how strongly embedded the quick and efficiency habit is for Sophia, for instance? And for Dawn, you know, it's an everyday thing. Sure, we can do it when it's needed. If I'm going to put them on a project, am I going to be surprised if they step into my office the first day and say, she's driving me crazy and she's driving me crazy because of the misunderstanding within this? Or am I going to guide them to say, guys, let's get an agreement to say, no one on an email reply 24 hours. Then Sophia can't pick up the phone before then and ask Dawn, where's my email reply? And Dawn can't take 2 weeks to reply the email for Sophia. They have an agreement that suits both of the unique preferences. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here we have insight into the team context. This can also be used if we need to expand our team to say, if I'm bringing in a new team member, do I want to align that closely to the team? So do I want someone like Jeff that has a close similarity there? Or do I need to bring Sophia into this team? Is that what the team needs? Remember, unique preferences, not right or wrong, but understand the team dynamics. You have the insight here. Now, the last thing with the team, let's quickly just look at our subgroups. Now, the system creates subgroups for you to say your individual team members. What are the subgroups their behaviors naturally align towards? You'll see we have everything here, the people's group, adventure and change group, an action and task group, a cautious group. And these are the roles these team members will naturally play in that team. Let's just look at one. If I hover over my anchor team, I can see the following 3 individuals are in the anchor team for this team. So the anchor team or the anchor group sub-team, and they're sort of the middleman voice between the adventure and change group, the cautious group, the action and task group to say, guys, what is the best common or congruent way for this team? Now look how the system informs you. You're looking at the anchor group, you see Jennifer, Michelle, and Jeff. Let's just go back to our team graph, and then you can see why were they identified here. You see Jennifer, you see Michelle, and Jeff. You see how closely their habits align to the context of the team, and that's why they're in the anchor group. In a different team, they might be in a different role. You would have the insight into this team if you could create the combined profile of your team members with your team that you manage or are parts of. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've spoken about the optimal placement component, the employee support and development. We've now looked at the team analysis. Let's end off the Shadowmatch part with that personal wellness component. Each individual that completes the Shadowmatch worksheet has access to a personal portal. There they have very nice resources for their own personal well-being and development. I'm now going to switch. So I'm currently logged in as the system administrator, seeing the data of the employees. But I also did the Shadowmatch worksheet if I'm the company administrator here, so I have access to my own portal. So at the bottom here, I'm switching. And in this case, I'm a fictitious person, Annie Anderson. And now we're seeing Annie's personal portal here. Only she has access to this. No outside employee or outside system administrator has access to this. It's her personal safe space for her development and understanding her own habits. So if I scroll down on my main screen, just quickly want to highlight a few things to you. Here I have access to great short resources helping me to understand my own results. So nothing about benchmarking and team analysis. I as an individual, how do my habits work? How do these results operate? How should I understand my graph? And I can read my own personal graph nice and interactively. And you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, Annie's graph isn't compared to anything. She doesn't see the benchmark. This is her habit. She would have received the personal feedback report the moment she completed her worksheet, but here she can read it interactively. So if I click on this habit there, my description of what this habit means for me, where it falls on these categories, I can easily see and I can engage with that. So if I watch the videos, work interactively here, I can understand my own habits. I also have access to other resources, for instance, relationship reports. Now, the system gives you access to this to say, understand the dynamics of a relationship where two individuals are in that relationship and they have unique habit preferences. So on my personal portal, I can request anything from a work relationship, friendship, family, love, marriage, staying together, parent-child, as well as teacher-student. So you'll see all of the different types of relationships we have. And if I want to request this, let's say Annie wants to request it with her spouse. She simply clicks here and she puts in her spouse's details. Now, this is a personal report, so both individuals give consent. If she sends that request and her husband then receives an email saying, Annie wants to request this report, do you approve? The moment he approves, they each get access to this report. It'll be on their personal portal here, and they will also receive it in an email. What is the relationship report? It's comparing the habits in the capacity of that relationship. So where do we have similar habits? Where do we have different habits? And where do we have very different habits? And what does that practically mean? And in the capacity of that specific relationship, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, responsiveness between spouses means something a bit different as responsiveness between colleagues. So it's such a nice insight into that relationship. The relationship doesn't have to be in a bad place for you to request this report. It can be a perfectly great relationship or friendship, but you get insight into that. But on a more serious note, it is a great resource to understand that relationship and to manage it optimally. So if your employees and the individuals in the environment struggle with relationships and they need that support, giving them access to this great resource, a personal resource to understand that relationships. The work relationship report can also be requested from the company side. So on your interface, the system interface, you can request it between two colleagues. For if someone is new, it's an onboarding process. You want to understand your relationship with the manager, or if it's a conflict situation and you have that nice objective view to understand the dynamics of the relationship and eliminate the misunderstandings. Okay, the last resource here before we get to our reports is the personal development. Told you we'd be taking a look at this as well. On my personal portal, I can at any stage request a development program. So even if it wasn't instigated from the company side, if I choose to embark on development, it's quick and easy to request it here. I have all 20 of the programs, and I can simply click the request button to say, I want to embark on the journey of developing the propensity to handoff habit. I click request, and I can then complete a mentor's details. These programs are facilitated with the support of a mentor. The mentor doesn't have to be good in this specific habit because the content is already on the system. The mentor is my soundboard that keeps me accountable to say, hi, Annie, you embarked on this development program. When is phase 2 going to be submitted? You said it would be done in 2 weeks. Where are we now? You do the development personally on your own, but that mentor just guides you in that journey. If it's requested from the company side, the company can decide if they want to allocate specific mentors to this, develop the guys that they can be mentors and help the employees. Otherwise, I can choose anybody, my friend, my colleague, and they can assist me with this program. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that sums up the Shadowmatch component of this to say, if we understand the habits of that individual and we pull it into the system, we open up all of these functionalities for them. From the Shadowmatch worksheet, other reports also stem great specific reports that give that individual in-depth guidance in specific life areas. So this will link to my I know component, helping me to get that knowledge component, as well as the personal wellness on Shadowmatch. The first report I want to show you here is the career report. Now on my portal, I have access to it here at the top. I click on my career report, and now this report opens. Now this is a fantastic report. What it does, it gives me specific, unique guidance on what are the components that optimally align towards my habits within a career. So if I'm embarking on a career journey, or if I'm changing a career journey, if I'm currently in a career and I want to understand that career, that it aligns optimally to my unique habits, I have this great interactive report. So we don't have time to go through everything. I'll just show you a few things. It has specific areas that it guides me on to say the future world of work. Is this career you're embarking on? What is the long-term sustainability of this? And where do you fit into that space? Your broad focus of your career, where should that focus lie? And you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, there's great videos throughout, short videos like the animation we watched at the start, explaining this principle to me, and it's interactive, and I have my own graph. So let me click here, for instance. Now I'm viewing my unique broad focus guidelines to say, if we're thinking about working with people, working with objects and tasks, and working with ideas, where's my unique preference here? You see, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a linear thing where you either have this or that. It's the unique intricacies to say you need a balance with this. You need some of that, you need some of this. So it's such a nice report to understand my whole career journey and help me find that place where it's not just a generic approach, but based on my habits, how should I be thinking about my career? Okay, we can talk about hours for hours about this report, but that's unfortunately all time we have today for this. I urge you to go to your own personal portal and explore your career report if you haven't, or watch our great webinars on that. Now, the second report that stems from my unique habits, my personal feedback report, is a study report. Once again, focusing on a different area of life. Yeah, I'm in a career journey. My study report is if I need to study, what is the optimal study method aligning to my unique habits? So either I'm in school, I'm in university, I'm an adult studying, doing further education. How does this work? Because we don't all study the same way. And if we understand what the best method for my unique habits are, we get that results. So same as with the career report, nice and interactive, great videos explaining these specific constructs. So ladies and gentlemen, just to emphasize this, the content of this report is unique to this individual. Annie's report looks different from my report because our habits are different. But it's guiding us on these specific study method principles to say, think about this. Here's a great method for you. Let's just scroll down a bit. I have specific tips here to say, if you think about your habits, what are the things to be aware of? Okay, so that's our study report. Also, fantastic report. Please go and take a look at your own report in that. Back to our main discussion. So let's just sum up. We've done the I fit component. We've touched on the I know component to say we even help the individual to make that knowledge component a bit better. If they need to study further, here is a great resource to work on it. But what about the I can component, the skills part? We now will be looking at the Skillsgrid system. Now, the Skillsgrid system specifically focuses on the skills of the individual. It's a fantastic visual and user-friendly way to engage with the skills within that environment at a touch of a button. Okay, so let's quickly open up my slideshow. Okay, the Skillsgrid worksheet, I'm opening up one of the questions here on the screen for you. Each question focuses on a specific skill area, and it's asking the individual to rate themselves in this skill level. So the Skillsgrid worksheet is a self-assessment, but it's giving me a description of a specific skill, for instance, computer literacy. There's the definition, and then a 5-level rating scale to say, am I no or limited skill, basic, skilled, highly skilled, or expert? And the description of what that means for this skill. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is a self-assessment, but in the assessment, there's a bunch of checks to help the robustness of this measurement to say, okay, if you're going to say you're skilled in this area, give us more detail. So it's opening up a second set by sub-skills to say in computer literacy, in which of these specific areas are you skilled and how skilled? So if I chose expert on the previous screen and suddenly these things open and I say, oh, I have no idea what it is. Maybe I'm not an expert in computer literacy. Then and I say, none. The system is going to adjust to say, okay, there's a misalignment here. What is the true skill that we need to measure? Now the worksheet is quick and easy. It goes through these 25 skills areas. We'll take a look at them now on the system. And the individual captures that unique skill set to say, but where am I? Am I basically skilled? Am I expert skilled for this specific skill set? With Skillsgrid, the same as with Shadowmatch, we can create a benchmark to understand that role. If we send this worksheet to the top performers in this specific role, they will receive the following question. They went through the worksheet to mark the specific skills level they personally are on. And now they're asked to say, in doing your current job, please indicate the importance of this skill. So is administrative skill not necessary, helpful, important, or critical for me to be in this specific role? So I would rate each of these skills to say, what is the priority of this? And once again, all of the top performers will do that. And the system collates that to say, let's understand the skill set of this specific role. What does that look like? Let's go and look at the system again and see the live interaction. So for that, I'm logging out of the personal portal and we're going to log back into the system, back into our fictitious demo company. Great. I know you might have seen it when we were looking at the Shadowmatch part. Let's just go home. We don't need to see our previous results. Do you see there at the top? There's a switcher here. I have Shadowmatch, I have Skillsgrid, so I can engage with both of these interfaces seamlessly on the same screen. So both products, we have them here. Now we look at Skillsgrid. So I'm going to go into the same thing. I'm going into a specific role to see, okay, what is this role? Can we understand it if we're thinking about sales or if you're thinking about skills? So in sales, if I go to my Skillsgrid benchmark, I now see that the following individuals, they've been earmarked as the top performers in this role. They all completed the worksheet themselves. And now we have insight into understanding the skills requirements for this role. Now you see Skillsgrid is nice and visual. And this graph has two indicators for me to help me. The first thing is the skills level. So the number of blocks that are colored in, that shows me that level. So is it no one limited, basically skilled, all the way to expert? So here we have, for instance, 2 blocks. Okay, so that's a basic skill level there. But there we have an expert skill level for selling skills, for instance. The second element to this is the priority. So the color that graph is in shows me, is it not needed all the way to critical? So these skills here, not needed. We don't see a graph here. There we see a critical one at an expert level, a critical one at a highly skilled level. So now we understand the skills requirement for this role. And same as with Shadowmatch, we can compare individuals against this. So if I'm going to my applicants and I say, let's just open up our list again, and let's just focus on the skills grid here. Let's say I want to see an individual compared to this graph. I'm going to choose show here at the bottom and say, show me that result compared to that skills grid benchmark. Now, do you see, ladies and gentlemen, what happened there on the screen? Suddenly we see a blue graph over this benchmark. I'm just quickly going to hide our benchmark. This blue graph, that's the individual's unique skills profile. So if Shoal completed that worksheet, he has this nice resource to say, this is me, this is my skill set. And all of the detail he captured whilst completing the worksheet, all of my sub skills are listed below. So what is the areas that I'm verbally skilled in? My computer literacy, what were those specific programs that he highlighted there? And that is my skill set. If I now compare this to the benchmark, do you see it's highlighting areas where there's a closer alignment and where there's a bit of an area for development to say, let's look at the biggest areas of concern to say, well, we need an expert skill level here, but this individual is only basically skilled. So if we're thinking about skills development and training this individual, we would start here to say that's our biggest area. So Skillsgrid gives this to me at a touch of a button to say, let all of my employees complete the Skillsgrid worksheet. Let's create the benchmarks for each of these roles and understand the demands of each of these individuals for skills in their specific role. Now, same as with Shadowmatch, we can multi-match to say, I see the skills match here. I see the individual skill set. I see the demands of the role. Do we have a better match for that individual? If I go to the left, I can ask the system here to say, please multi-match this individual to all of my other skills benchmark to say, oh, don't we have a closer alignment? And there we see, there's a closer alignment here of the skill set of this individual compared to that benchmark than we saw on the previous screen, and the opposite as well. So if I'm on a specific benchmark, as we did with Shadowmatch, to say, multi-match various individuals for me to find the closest match to this specific benchmark. The system gives me that list to say all of these individuals are already have the required skill set for this, no need for training. So ladies and gentlemen, your skills grid, a fantastic tool to work interactively with your skills to say, let's understand the skills resources we have internally. Are we optimally using them? Do we have overskilled individuals within specific roles? Do we have individuals that are not at the skills level needed for that job? And that's the reason for their concern. Because if you think about where this whole discussion started, and let's loop that back to end off, the components for success in a specific role. I know, I can, I fit. If these components align, then the chances of me being successful in that role is so much higher. What if my performance is not aligning? What if I'm struggling? If we have insight into these components, then we can highlight the area of why I'm not performing to say, don't have a blanket approach and send me on a sales course again because I'm struggling in that role. Understand my skills demand to say, maybe it's a verbal thing. Maybe I'm not so comfortable with speaking English over the phone with customers. And that's what keeping my performance down. So send me on an English verbal course and then my performance is going to pick up. So richness of information on the system, both on Skillsgrid and Shadowmatch. And then Shadowmatch even then takes the step further to give you that career report and that study report. The client or the environment decides what is our specific needs and how much insight do we need? Do we want to understand all of the components or only elements of the components? It's all on the system if you choose to do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just the last thing to show you the interactive interface here. So you saw how I switched between Shadowmatch and Skillsgrid linked to the career report. But on my system, I also, as system administrator, have access to tutorials to say, if you're embarking using the system, show me a list of all of the tutorials that is helping me to navigate the system. So currently, if you're already a client, if you click that button, you see that you have all of your tutorials and nice things like an interactive key explaining all of the icons to say, if I see that little blue man there, what does that mean? If I see this graph, what does it mean? So it's a nice and interactive interface to understand these components and to use the results optimally. Let's log out and let's just quickly show you that events page. So Lizette referred to it at the start, and I hope that is how you reached us for this session today. So any webinar that we will be hosting will be posted here on the events tab. So it's on shadowmatch.co.za on the landing page. Do you see there's an events tab there? And the next event will always be highlighted here at the bottom to say, oh, do we see there's one on the 17th of February? What is it about? If I click on this page, I see all of the details and I click on a button, quickly book my seat and receive the Zoom link that I don't miss the webinar that I've been hoping to view. Okay, thanks, Azit. That's all from my side. Over to you, and let's hear if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Susanne. Very well done. I think that was very, very comprehensive, very insightful. You touched on all the elements very nicely. Thank you so much. I think I just want to add maybe, ladies and gentlemen, on each of the things that Susanne covered, the 4 business applications, the placement, the development, the teams, the personal well-being and personal wellness, as well as the career report and the study report and Skillsgrid. There are separate webinars where we spent an hour on Skillsgrid. We spent an entire hour on the study report. We spent an entire hour on using Shadowmatch for optimal placement. You can find all those recordings on our YouTube channel. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's already available on the shadowmatch.com website. If it's not yet available, it will soon be available under the resources tab on the Shadowmatch website as well. So Suzanne, thank you very much. That's great. And then we had one question, and maybe you just want to show that again. There was a question that said, how do we get to the personal portal page? Now, I did explain that there's two ways. If you're not a current client using the system as a Shadowmatch client, then you merely go to Shadowmatch, enter your email address, and you will arrive in your portal. If you are a client, you will follow the route that Suzanne showed, where in the bottom left corner, you find the logout and the My Portal. Maybe you can just quickly show the two options, if you don't mind. I think we do have a few minutes. And I think that was the only question. There were some questions with regards to the relationship reports, which I've answered and handled. So I don't think that's important to necessarily discuss that So thanks, Suzanne, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Lizette. Let's quickly share that screen again. So, ladies and gentlemen, the gateway, the entry into anything for the system is this screen here. And the only information it needs is your email address. What you are connected to depends on where are you. Have you done the worksheet? Are you a new individual? Do you already have a personal portal? Are you a system user? So if I put in an email address here, it opens up the next step. So if I haven't ever done the worksheet and it's a new email address, then it's going to start my worksheet to say, do you want to start a worksheet? Let's get you sorted with the questions. If I put in my email address here and I've already completed the worksheet, it takes me directly to my personal portal and it opens up that interface where I see all of my reports. If I'm a system administrator and I have completed the worksheet, but I also have access to the data of the company, it's going to open up the system interface. So this is what we did with the demo company. We said, okay, let's open this up. It's asking me for my password. And remember, only I have access to that password. And now, because I am a system administrator, it says, okay, Annie, you not just have your personal portal, you also see the company interface of Company Z because you are an employee of Company Z. If you want to switch to your personal portal, so you're not administrating the system, you want to embark on your personal development or your personal resources, you can switch here at the bottom of the screen. So there I would log out and here I switch to my personal portal. Okay. So that's how we switch into it. So if I did not have company access, I'm not a system administrator, I will go directly to this screen. So it won't take me first to the company database thing, directly to this screen because Annie's email address opens up Annie's personal portal. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Suzanne. Two questions came in the chat. I'm quickly going to just address them and you're welcome to add if you want to. The first question was related to the Skillsgrid. Do all the Skillsgrid questions ask the client or the candidate or the applicant, the individual, to rate him or herself? Yes. It's a 5-point rating scale as Suzanne has shown. The system, however, is a clever system. So if you rate yourself, it populates a second question with a sub-skill. And then if you rate yourself higher or lower on the sub-skill related to the headline skill, then the system will actually adjust your rating. The system also, when the email gets sent out to invite you to do the Skillsgrid worksheet, tells you to be honest. And our experience is that people rather underrate themselves than overrate. But in all the years that we've used Skillsgrid, we've never had people that rate themselves 5 out of 5 on all the skills, because they are normally required to take evidence of their skills to an interview, or even if it's an online interview, to send evidence and also to provide references. So to answer the question, it is a self-rating scale, but the system is quite clever and it picks up whether you've underrated or overrated yourself and whether your questions and your answers actually align. So I hope that answers the question. And then there was a question, Sunny, just allow me to open the chat. But what about benchmarking limitations if it's a very small team? You need about minimum 3 people for a benchmark. Why not only 2? Because if the 2 people that you've chosen for the benchmark that are top performers are not congruent in their behavior patterns, the system will ask you to remove 1 person from the benchmark, and then you are left with 1 person, and that means you are looking for a clone, which is not the right way of using the system. So that's why we normally suggest you start with 3 people as top performers in an environment. If, however, your environment or your division or your team is so small that you do not have 3 top performers, it's just a team of 3 people and they're not all 3 top performers, then instead of using the benchmark in Shadowmatch, you can use the team application. So you will then take the 3 people that you've got, put them in a team, and then the person that you are wanting to recruit or pull into that team, you will then add to that team, and the system will show you the interaction and the dynamics of the 4 people then working together as a team. So with very small groups, we suggest use the team application and not the benchmarking. It gives a different comparison and a different dynamic in terms of how people will interact with each other. I don't know if you want to add anything there, Suzanne. Thanks.
Thanks, Lizzie. I actually want to show a nice resource for that question. So once again, sharing the screen just on my side. So I'm now going to take us to the information website. So today we've been working on the system, but let's go to shadowmatch.com. Now, shadowmatch.com is a general information website. You're all familiar with the concept of a website. So it showcases what are the different products, nice and interactive resources to understand all of them. What I specifically want to show you is the frequently asked questions tab. So you can either find it at the top under your resources. You see there's the option to link to my frequently asked questions page, or here at the bottom. On this page, there's short videos addressing specific questions we frequently receive. So the one we're going to link to today is understanding our benchmark. How do we form it? And what do we do if we don't have benchmark employees? And then the specific one for that specific question, what if we cannot create a benchmark? So I'm going to urge you to please feel free to go visit this page. It's such a nice video, and it explains how all of the elements of the system will combine you if this is your current situation where you say, we cannot create a benchmark for this role, but how am I informed to make the best decision there? Okay, thanks, Lizzie.
Thanks, Suzanne. There was one last question, and then I think we can end. Those that want to stay are welcome. Just with regards to Shadowmatch and accreditation by the HPCSA, no, Shadowmatch is not accredited. It's not a psychological tool. It doesn't measure psychological constructs. We've got a couple of letters and documents that have been circulated that states that it's not a psychological tool. So it doesn't have to be accredited, or it doesn't have to be registered with the HPCSA. It's used worldwide. We've got Carla, who joined us from the USA today. She uses the system in the United States. We've got the system used in London. We've got it used in Australia. So it's not just a South African tool. Yes, we've never had any CCMA cases because it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't put people into boxes. It works and it fits into the same category as an in-basket exercise or role play, if you want to categorize Shadowmatch. So it doesn't label people. It doesn't pass or fail people. It doesn't show whether you're good or bad. It merely looks at your behavioral patterns, and it helps. And you don't have to not appoint somebody. You can just, it helps you to understand the individual that you take into your environment. So I hope that answers the question. If you want any more information, you're welcome to send us an email to info@Shadowmatch. The system has been validated by the Florida Institute of Technology in the United States, and that's probably about 15 years back, or I don't even know how long back. So it is reliable and it is valid, and it's been in the market for more than 20 years. I think from my side, Susanne, thank you very much. I'm going to end the session just to stop the recording. Thank everybody. Thanks for joining. It's great to see all of you. You don't have to run. You're welcome to stay on should you have more questions. But for purpose of the recording, Susanne, thanks once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we make the recording available, and we hope to see you soon at one of our future webinars. Thank you very much.